Hello everyone, welcome to Rise of Coding. In this video we will build weather app using Redux Toolkit and WeatherAPI that provides current weather details and forecasts for any city, and also dynamically changes the background image based on the weather condition. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I already created a React app, and you can find the start project in the link in the description below. First we will install the dependencies. We will install Redux Toolkit, and React Redux, and Axios, and React icons. And now we will create the weather component. For now we will use static data, but once we integrate the Weather API, we will replace the static data with the dynamic data fetched from the Weather API. We will return div with class name of weather container. Inside this div, we will have two divs, main section div, and side section div. Inside the main section, we have a div with class name of weather info. And another div with class name of weather hours. Inside the weather info div, we have a location div. Inside of it, we have h3 for the location. After the location div, we have condition div. Inside of it, we have an h1 for the weather condition. Inside the weather hours div, we have div with class name of our car. Inside this div, we will have a div for the hour time, and a div for our condition icon, and a div for the hour temperature. Inside the side section, we will have three divs. A div with class name of search box, and another div with class name of temp.info. And another div with class name of forecast days. Inside the search box, we have location icon, an input tag, and search icon. Inside the temp info div, we have an h1 for the temperature and p tag for the wind speed. Inside the div with class name of forecast days, we have a h1 for the next day's forecast. Then we have a div with class name of forecast item. Inside this div, we will display the date, and the weather condition, and the temperature. Now let's save and import this component to the app file. Now let's save and have a look. That should be the initial look. Now we need to integrate the Weather API, and we'll replace the static data with the dynamic data fetched from the Weather API. We will use Weather API for fetching weather data in our project, and you can find the link in the description. You need first to create an account, then you could copy the API key. We will use Redux Toolkit to manage the state and make the API call for fetching weather data in our project. So let's configure the Redux store and create the necessary slices for handling the weather data. Inside the weather slice, we will store the API key that we copied. And also define the base URL. Then we will create an async thunk for fetching weather data. This function takes two parameters. The first one is string identifier that used in action names. And the second parameter is asynchronous function. Which use axios.get to send a GET request to the Weather API endpoint. This function takes city as a parameter. Then we will return response.data that contains the weather forecast returned by the API. Then we will create the weather slice to manage the weather forecast state. And then we will add the name and the initial state properties to it. Then we will use extra reducers to handle actions created by the async thunk, so when the fetch forecast by city action is fulfilled, the forecast property in the state is updated with the API's response. Then we will export the slices reducer so it can be included in the Redux store. Inside store.js file, we will configure the Redux store and import the weather reducer. Then inside the index file, you will wrap the app component with React Redux provider and pass the Redux store to it. After fetching the weather data, now we need to utilize this data in the weather component. So first we need to use the useDispatch hook. And inside useEffect hook, we will dispatch fetch forecast by city action. Then we will use the useSelector to access the forecast data from Redux state, and we will store that in forecast variable. Then we will console log the forecast to verify that the forecast data has been fetched. Now we will replace the static data with the fetched data. So we will replace the city name and the country. Inside the location we have name and country. So for the city name, it will be forecast.location.name. And for the country, it will be forecast.location.country. And we will replace the static weather condition with weather condition that we fetch it. And we can find the condition inside the current. So it will be forecast.current.condition.text. And for the R data, we can find it inside the forecast day, inside the forecast. Here we got the 24 hours, but we only need the first 10 hours, so let's store them inside the forecast hours variable. So the forecast hours will be forecast.forecast.forecastDay at the 0 index, .r. Then we will use slice function to display only the first 10 results. Then inside the weather hours div, we will map over the forecast hours. And we will return the rcard div. Inside the R data, we got the time, but we got the full time, and we need to display only the clock. So let's convert the time we got. So let's replace the static time with the converted time. And we will replace this icon with the icon inside the condition inside the hour. So the src of the image will be our .condition.icon. And we will replace the static temperature with fetched temperature. And we will use the math.cal function to round the number up. We will replace the static placeholder with forecast.location.name. And we will replace this current temperature with temperature that inside the current. So it will be forecast.current.temp_c. And then we will replace the wind data. We can find them inside the current also. So the direction will be forecast.current.wind_dir. And the speed will be forecast.current.wind_kph. For the forecast days, we got 5 days, so we need to map over them. So here, after the H1, we will map over the forecast.forecast.forecast day. And we will return the div with class name of forecast-item. Now we need to replace the static date. But we need to convert this formula. So we will create converted forecast date. Then we will replace the converted forecast date. And then we will replace the weather condition, and we can find it inside the day. So it will be item.day.condition.text. And we need also to replace this icon. So we will add an image, and the src will be item.day.condition.icon. And we will replace these to temperatures with max and min temperature. Now let's save and have a look. Now we need to handle the search function. So inside the weather component, we first will add a state to store the city name. Then we will create handle search function. Inside this function we will say, if the city name after we remove the spaces not equals to empty string, then we will dispatch the fetch forecast by city action, and we will pass the city name to it. Inside the search input, we will add the city as a value, and on change we will update the city state to what we typed. Then when we click on the search icon, we will call handle search function. Now let's save and have a look. Now we need to change the background image dynamically, based on the weather condition. First, we will import the weather condition images from the Assets folder. Then we will store the weather condition, so it will be forecast.current.condition.text. And we will convert it to lowercase. Then we will set the default background image. Then we will check if the weather condition exists. Then we will check if the weather condition includes sunny or clear words. Then the background image will be sunny image. Then we will check if the weather condition includes rain word. Then the background image will be rain image. Then we will check if the weather condition includes snow word. Then the background image will be snow image. Then we will check if the weather condition includes cloud or overcast words. Then the background image will be cloud image. Then we will add inline style to the div with class name of weather-container to display the background image dynamically. Now let's save and have a look.